It seems like I haven't reviewed a handheld in a long time. The Analog Pocket and the Steam Deck have sapped up all of the handheld media recently, but thankfully for us retro handheld enthusiasts, one little handheld has slid under the radar. And although it pains me to say it's from Powkiddy, it's about time that we had something to add to our collection. This is the Powkiddy RGB10S, a portable slimline handheld that has been a pleasant surprise. That was until I saw the $90 price tag. Before I jump into this review, I'd like to announce that we are teaming up with Lost in Cult to produce a high-end bespoke coffee table book about the history of handhelds. It's not out yet, don't worry, you haven't missed it. We are still in the creation process, but we have finalized the official logo, which you can see here, and have over 30 guests involved. Some of the guests will be names that I guarantee you have heard of. I am extremely passionate about this book and I can't wait to get it launched. It's going to be an incredible piece of physical content that pays respects to many of the world's most popular and bizarre handhelds. Head over to handheldhistory.com or use the link below to be the first to know about news, updates, and its official launch. Now, let's talk about the RGB10S. As mentioned in many of my other reviews, Powkiddy has always been hit and miss with its products. Some are good, some are bad, and others are just downright awful. And this is because they have a tendency to rush their products into production in hopes that something sells well. The global chip shortages definitely hasn't helped with this, and although their output hasn't decreased, the technology behind it and the chips used have stayed the same for many years now. There's just no innovation and they're really wanting to squeeze as much as they can out of the RK3326 chipset. So yes, this device here has the old RK3326 chip, which is a disappointment as many of us who are collectors have far too many of these handhelds to justify buying another one with the same power, especially when Powkiddy puts it at a $90 price tag. Now, it pains me to say that these handhelds aren't going to get any cheaper as the months and years go on. The world is in a fragile state, the average person can barely save money due to inflation and the ever-increasing energy prices, so these companies are in a really sticky situation. But launching an average handheld just isn't going to cut it anymore, and as much as I like the RGB10S, it's hard for me to justify spending $90 on something so average because I know how far $90 can go in terms of paying bills and putting food on the table. That aside, let's look at the RGB10S. It's a small device and at times it feels like a Game Boy Advance, but with extra shoulder buttons, a 3.5-inch screen, and an analog stick which looks like Hellboy's butthole. Overall though, the face looks very modern. The slim bezels alongside the easy to understand face makes it a very sleek looking device. The action buttons are colored and placed nicely, but are much smaller than what I'm used to. The same goes with the shoulder buttons on top. Even though they are okay to press, they're just too small for adult hands. The menu and option buttons also feel a little cheap and have far too much movement, but that's just me being picky. Around the back and sides you'll find nothing, just a sleek matte finish shell. All of the buttons and ports are nicely organized along the top of the device, apart from the volume buttons. You'll have to press the menu and up on the D-pad to increase volume, which is annoying and again a simple corner cut. The same goes with the brightness too, but unfortunately the low-res 480 by 320 screen doesn't get that bright and is very hard to see in direct sunlight. When holding the RGB10S, yes, it feels sturdy and strong enough to take a lot of bumps and bruises, but as you can see from this clip, my hands simply engulf the handheld, making it a little cramped and uncomfortable to play on for long periods of time. And actually this makes me recommend the RGB10S for children or teenagers instead of adults, simply due to how compact and cramped the device is and how it's kind of designed. Now moving on to performance. As mentioned, it has a quad-core 1.5 GHz RK3326 chipset with 1GB of RAM, 3000 mAh of battery, and a screen with a low resolution of 480 by 320. Combined in a small handheld like this, that's quite impressive, but it's still a RK3326 handheld, which as we know caps itself at PlayStation 1 gameplay. The smaller consoles such as Game Boy Advance, NES, arcade games, WonderSwan, Game Gear, Mega Drive and more work really well on this thing, and I had a blast playing them on such a small, good looking device. But as you can imagine, N64 lacked quality alongside low frame rates, Dreamcast was near impossible to play on, and PSP emulation was poor too. This is a handheld aimed at those that like to play on consoles and handhelds up to PlayStation 1. Anything more than that and it really starts to struggle. However, I did notice that the battery life had some impressive longevity to it. I was pulling probably around about 5 hours out of this thing on one single charge, which makes me think it's a good handheld for kids and teenagers to have in their bag when they go to school or you're traveling. But they will need to get used to tinkering around with some of the ugly menus and understanding how to do the unnatural keybinds to get into menus, save states and more. Overall, the Powkiddy RGB10S is a great looking handheld, one that I had to pick up simply due to the miniature Game Boy Advance aesthetic. The console itself is very small, so I found it awkward to play on for long periods of time, and the old RK3326 chip gave me nothing to get excited about in terms of performance. But the cherry on top is the unfortunate price tag coming in at $90 for something that just looks good and won't fit many adult hands. However, if you are looking for a handheld for your child or a young family member and don't mind splashing out to get retro games into their hands, then I think the RGB10S could be a good fit. But for us adults and those with big hands, it's a bit of a shame. I was really hoping this would feel great, but unfortunately the size, the low brightness and the lack of power makes it one that I just personally have to pass on. If this was $50, it would be a steal, but it's almost double that, which when I think of it, is a little ridiculous. There you have it, a quick review of the Powkiddy RGB10S. If you enjoy handhelds, hit subscribe, and if you can't wait for the book to come out, go to handheldhistory.com to sign up for news and when we launch it. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.